beat yourself. That's from the year prior. I think that is a great goal to have after, and be 1% better every day.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to the Pure Athlete Podcast. Here we go again. More information, more relevancy to student athletes and their parents, bringing up resources and conversation, and hopefully inspiring some asking better questions, getting better answers, but also, just giving perspective.
Yeah.
So we talk about that a lot as we intro into the podcast. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about Erin's broken finger. Erin goes to practice before nationals and decides to jam her finger into a door. What does a national championship coach do when she jams her finger?
So what I did was nothing. I just, kept coaching them.
Yep.
Because, as this is coming out, we're getting back from nationals. So there's really no time to waste. So I put myself aside and was coaching them like this.
Yeah, she texted the Athlete Urgent Care hotline.
I did.
Which is yours truly and the rest of our staff.
Yeah.
And, I said, it's just a finger. You've got 9 more, and we'll get over it.
Yeah, and I've broken this one before, so.
Yep, tape it up, rub some dirt on it.
She's good to go.
And she's good to go.
She's bending today. So.
It happens to all of us. Let's just not do that again.
Yeah.
All right?
All right.
Perfect. All right, well, here we are. We are on the heels. Would we be on the heels or would we be on the toes of the Super Bowl?
Well, you walk heel to toe, so I would say the heel.
So we are just a few days before the Super Bowl when this launches. So super exciting time. We are also going to be discussing some things as the Olympics are coming up.
Yeah.
But where do you want to start, Erin? Lead us off.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, I think, going kind of with the Super Bowl.
That's not where I wanted you to go.
Oh.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Give us some feedback, some information. I was testing you. It's all good. No, in all seriousness, though, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and make sure you share it out. If somebody shared it with you, do us a favor, do them a favor. Like I said, we really are trying to be relevant. We have a lot of great things happening in our community. We are starting to gain some more traction in listeners, which is cool. We do this because we really love and enjoy it. It's nice to see what the Pure Athlete is doing as a service and health to our local community and reaching some other docs that we have relationships with across the country. So now, without further ado, now that we've got everybody subscribing and following us on social media and going to thepureathlete.com, hit it. Where you want to go?
Okay, so like I was saying, there's a clip circulating of George Kittle from actually a few years ago in 2020, last time they were in the Super Bowl, the 49ers. And so in this video, which you guys should all look up or we'll link it down below, he basically, it's the end of the game, they know they're losing, and he says, and I'm quoting, he says, "I will be back here with a vengeance, and you will not get the best of me. No, sir." And now they're back. So I think that's really cool, like leadership moment. Obviously, George Kittle is a huge name in the franchise. He's also just a cool guy. I don't know if you saw him walking into the playoffs the other day.
Oh, yeah.
He had his wife on his shirt because, duh. But, yeah.
I think on paper he's got an argument.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to go against Andy Reid and Mahomes and Kels and that whole team with experience. So we talked about that on the last podcast too. Yeah. But I've always been a Niners fan. We talked about that as well. But yeah, I love the mind frame that he's in. I love that this is recirculating. This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
You can't win them all. And so for him to be honed in, I'd like to see a side-by-side video now. Throw out a TikTok there, Georgie, and kind of give us what do they say when they put them side by side, like a reaction TikTok to your previous 2020 comments. But I like it. I think there's that kind of goes into a little bit of our deep dive too, and it's going to be a good game.
Yeah. There was also a very similar other thing going on that Jalen Hurts actually had his lock screen for this whole season as the picture of him walking out with the Chiefs confetti in the background at Super Bowl, and it had like gotten leaked. That was his lock screen on his phone. So similar things. If that's what motivates you, then go for it.
Yeah.
If you put in a second place trophy on your lock screens, what's gonna motivate you, then go for it. I mean, I can see why it would motivate you. I think it's just a really cool story.
I was a person that I didn't erase the history. I think there's something to be remembered, and definitely things you can learn from, historically across your career, or the teams that you're coaching, or in sport in general. But I still am a huge supporter of the rear view smaller for a reason. The windshield's bigger for a reason. Because I'm just not a dweller. Like, I've been on record saying I hate losing more than I like winning, which is definitely not quite the right attitude to have. I wish I could have changed that sooner. I wish I could understand that that's the way I felt sooner. But now I jokingly say that because, it's not any race out of my mind. I think there's something to be learned from a historical loss like that. But I would definitely be the one. It was the Kobe quote. One of the interviews with Kobe that I loved was, when his basketball team, when Gigi's team, they went through a tournament, they didn't win the whole thing, and he's like, you got two options. You can get rid of this and treat this as the participation trophy it really is, and you can just, throw that off to the side, which I'm all for, essentially. And or you can also put this on your dresser and remember that is the last trophy like that you will ever receive, and use that as fuel or fire. So definitely two ways to go about it. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, the times that I have lost, a lot of people on that team came back for that reason, to not lose again. One of my really good friends on my college team, she was actually from Japan. So her senior year was technically also my senior year. We lost hip hop that year. And while we're in Daytona and we lose hip hop that year, she says like, okay, that's it. I'm coming back for a 5th year because I'm not losing again, because hip hop's like her thing. She's been on the world's team for Japan. And so she took that kind of at like a personal kind of thing. And I mean, they came back, and then I got to coach her for a year, which is super cool. And they ended up winning hip hop. So she was like, I came back for the right reason.
Yeah.
So the other flip of that coin though is
that
like
banner hangs right out here.
It does. You can't have that be your only motivation, is winning or beating someone. It has to be to beat other goals that you have as a team, or even beat like what the team has done in the past. I think that's my favorite thing to bring up when coaching, is like, as the athletic world is evolving, like so are we. So our only goal really every year is to beat ourselves from the year before. That's the only way that the program's going to keep moving. The only way that you're going to leave a legacy that's worth leaving is that, not just the first place trophies.
Yeah, and we might just go ahead and segue into this and weave in and out, because as it's coming to me as we do this off the top. This is an impromptu podcast that we do. So with that being said, it's we're our own biggest critic is usually how people say it, but we're also our biggest enemy. And so I love that idea of, just if you can beat yourself, that's from the year prior. I think that is a great goal to have after, and be 1% better every day. Be better than when you were yesterday, and really focus on how can we be better and score higher than we did the last time. And also too, and this is I'm going to be open and saying I'm going to twist Kittle's words here, since we let off with that. In line with this is I will be back with a vengeance. And understanding in these scenarios, and this can go in life, but this can this definitely goes in sport, but in life in general, I think it's something that I am going to share, in my opinion, that helps me stay centered and focused on the right thing, whether it's winning or whether it's building relationships or having a better mental outlook or a consistent mental outlook, is if you're going out to do anything, and we'll just keep this in sport realm, and you guys can take this into life. It'll be an easy transition. If you're going out to prove something, if you are literally going out with vengeance because of what happened last time, and you have something to prove, and you're going to set out to make sure that never happens again, and that these people don't win, you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
So you're so concerned with what they did and what the loss was, and you have something to prove. It's like you have nothing to prove. You're already doing it for the wrong reasons. What if you went out to be better than you were the last time?
Yeah.
What if you went out and you took all of that vengeance, that spite, that regret, that overselling that you are going to win this game, and focused on consistency, the fundamentals, the high fives and ass pats, the empowerment, the accountability? And what if you went out and you focused more on that than you did with, I'm not going to let that happen again?
Yeah.
If you're so focused on proving fans, proving communities, proving the other team, the other coaches, the other player across the side or across the line from you, if you're so focused on that, you're going to be very distracted.
Yeah.
You're doing it for the wrong reason. And I think that's very much something to keep an account. And even from a coaching perspective, that would be something. My World Series team that I was blessed to coach innately had that about them. It's like, we don't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing ever. But I think a lot of teams, and it's easy, it's emotional, it's competitive, it's okay to think like that, but then harbor it. And from a coaching perspective, change the angle and let them focus on yourself and what you can control and what you can do. Because at the end of the day, when you win, you're still going to have the same problems.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just going to look different.
Yeah, and I think something that's really just in the top of my brain right now because of the season of life that I'm in at this current moment is like, you have to also be realistic. You can't go from maybe not working all season and then you get to the big tournament, the nationals, and that's when you want to flip the switch and be serious about it. And that's something I told my team literally yesterday is like, 'cause we had our last practice in Missouri. It's like, you've done all of the work up until this point. So like from here on, it's just a victory lap. You've already won the things that you wanted to win. We've already made history at other competitions. And so like right now, all you have to do is the same thing you've been doing in this Commons floor on a stage. There's no need to switch anything. And that's the same thing that we kind of talked about on last week's podcast as well. Like going into the Super Bowl, you don't have to switch up what you've been doing all season. Yeah. Clearly it's working. So don't reinvent the wheel when you don't need to.
Right. Yeah. You have, and it just goes, I really believe it goes back to, you don't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
Like in your scenario, going to nationals, having been there and having those teams focus on dance for you, dance for who dance for your team.
Yeah.
You like the judges, there's always going to be judges.
Yep.
Whether you're in literal competition or whether somebody is watching you from afar as you are succeeding or as you are going through practice, not only in the sport, but as you are going through life and as you're going up the ranks or you're building a business.
Yeah.
Like people are watching, there's judges everywhere. So if you more do this and center around yourself and that you're going to do good things and you're going to support the people around you that are competing with you, that are trying to drive the same boat, the same direction for the same destination, do it for that.
Yeah.
Judge yourselves accordingly and don't worry about anybody else.
Yeah.
Don't do it out of vengeance or spite. Dance for you, dance for your team, play for your team, score for your team, celebrate for your team accordingly. We talked about that in the last podcast too. Flex with your team, not on the other team, and do it for you because you deserve it. You've put in the work. You have nothing to prove.
Yeah, and if those like theoretical judges that you have going through life or watching you from afar, like if they are not being critical, but also like supporting you, then it's time to drop them. Yeah. If you're doing it out of spite of someone else or another situation, like you just have to let that go. And it's not worth the mental toll it takes on you. It's not worth the mental toll it's going to take on maybe people that you're coaching if you're going through that. Like you have to put all of those feelings aside and be the best version of yourself for them in that moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. This is one of the topics that I love to sit in because I truly believe it's very underestimated conversation to have. And like you said, the theoretical judges are everywhere. I mean, your coaches have judged you all season.
Yep.
Like, what's it matter at this point? Don't get wrapped up into all that. Like, you're already there. Like, you are enough. You're good enough. Like, just send it.
Yeah.
Don't even focus on what you can control. Like, just focus.
Just do the damn thing.
Just do it. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. What's up? Where are we going next?
Well, also the Olympics are coming up.
Yeah, so
that's another huge, sports event happening, and the Olympics are always really cool because, well, first, are you a winter or summer Olympics kind of guy?
Summer.
Summer.
Yeah, summer.
Yeah. So
I will tell you, the last time I was really a winter was like the Shaun White.
Yeah.
Like Shaun White in his prime era, the flying tomato himself.
I do like ice skating though.
Yeah, the figure skating, but even back then, I mean, you're talking about, what was his name? Did the backflip? Scott. Oh, shoot, I can't remember his name. But yeah, I mean, I used to watch that with my mom all the time. My dad probably, he wouldn't admit it. Like, he probably would. He enjoyed watching it too. He'd be like, we could be watching the Steeler game instead of watching
Scott Hamilton.
Scott Hamilton, old Scotty Hamilton, Mr. Backflip himself. Yeah, there was but more so summer for sure.
Yeah, and I think the Olympics are really cool because it brings people who are like current, past teammates. Everyone kind of comes together to then represent their country. So I think it's really cool that they kind of put aside maybe some other differences they have and do that. I just watched a documentary actually on the World Cup, the Women's World Cup last season, and it kind of talks about how they're all from different club teams, and then they get scouted to these training camps, and that's really the only time they have is to become a team is in those training camps. Because amidst while they're doing that, they're going to training camp, and then they're competing with their club team still. So unless they're at training camp and they bond outside of practice, they're really not becoming a team. Because some other countries like that, their club team becomes their World Cup team. Yeah. But not here. So.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy all that when people get to go back and play for their countries, and because also it's fun. And I guess I pay more attention to things like the World Cup coming, marrying into a big soccer family, and but also like as hockey is more centered in our family too. The World Juniors just happened, and so it's almost like the Olympics. There's some form of Olympics every year, but watching it's like, oh, I didn't know he was actually from Sweden, or he claims his loyalty to Sweden or Norway or Finland or Canada or whatever. But it is fun watching, but definitely more of a summer Olympics for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of speculation around the Olympics always, just about like how much they're pushing themselves and the physical and mental like toll on them. But what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I think too, letting the Olympics be exactly what they were always meant to be, and competitive and just a competition. It's actually, I truly believe it's less of a, I shouldn't say less of a competition, but it's more about supporting your country and showing up and showing out for your country and representing your country within competition is what's most important. Yeah. I think what's very... And I think a lot of even the smaller countries, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of countries that have never medaled. Right. And yet they show up, they've got the flag on their back, and the torch ceremony is always great, and there's people crying, and you don't realize, like, again, we always talk about moments in this podcast too. And at that moment, you are there representing something bigger than yourself. Yeah. And you're not even worried about a statistic. You're not worried about a medal. It's that you are there showing up and representing the people back home. And they're not even, their nose isn't up in the air about it either. And I think they are very humbled when they really realize with their jackets on and they're carrying their flag that, wow, like I am here. And not many people get to do it, and I'm going to represent those people back home. Because I think the Olympics too is it's like, oh, the USA is going to, or, there's those handfuls of country, USA, France, Russia, that, gain a lot of medals, China. Yeah. And while the competition is good, those other countries or even athletes can be like, well, I'm not going to win anything, up against all these powerhouses. So I think having a perspective of what this was actually about, and you think hundreds of years ago when they're picking up boulders and running them across fields and stuff like that, and how this all started, I think it's a very, very cool event that I hope only gets displayed more raw and get back to the original production days of the Olympics versus it being a more of a media center point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the second that you think about the amount of hours you've put in to get to wherever moment that is, not have to be Olympics, it can be really anything that you've been working for. The moment that you discount the amount of hours that you're working on because you didn't win or you didn't medal or you didn't get the result that you're looking for, you're doing yourself such a disservice. The process is really where you win. It's where you build the grit and the characteristics that you're going to take with you whenever you're not an athlete anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's the qualification of getting there. Yeah. That's the biggest competition in it all. Like that's if you want to be hard ass about the competition and everything it takes, like you said, be a part of the process. Yeah. And because that's the just qualifying for it, that's probably more hectic. That's a bigger goal, a bigger achievement than medaling at the Olympics.
Right.
Without that, you don't even have an opportunity.
Right.
So just, trust the process and let everything else come out how it may, and respect the scenario that you're in.
Yeah, and a lot of, like, I think all athletes get the rap of like being under pressure and it being such a negative thing when it comes to pressure. But I feel like it is a privilege to have that much pressure put on your shoulders, whether it be for a team, a really successful coach, or even your country when we're talking about the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to remind, like in the coaching sense, remind your athletes like how much of a privilege it is to wear that uniform, how much of a privilege it is to walk on the stage and represent something bigger than yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in particular, Sam, which one of these you want to go after? Let's bring producer Sam and see which one of these topics, because we might not be able to hit them all, but I think with your segue, I was wondering how you're gonna weave that in there. Your segues into privileged. What'd you say?
Privileged pressure.
Privileged. Get my tongue over my eye tooth. Can't see what I'm saying. Privileged pressure. Which way you want to go? Producers, you got your hat on today.
I do, yeah. I had to make sure that I was in the producer mindset today.
Everybody's probably like, when the hell are you going to show producer Sam? We're not. We're not.
I'm just a voice. I'm actually in a separate room, just so everyone knows.
Which one you want?
I want to go with Simone Biles.
Okay.
Simone has said that she, has a long thought. The 2020 Olympics that got pushed to 2021 were going to be her last year, especially since she acquired this mental block that gymnasts sometimes get called the twisties, where she cannot locate.
It ain't just gymnasts, let me just tell you that.
Yeah, no, right? But she can't locate herself in the air, so she doesn't know where she's landing, and that can cause serious injury. And so she stepped away from the sport for a couple of years, but she's back. In 2023, she competed in all of these big world championships and literally medaled in everything. She dominated like she has been her entire,
37 medals at world championships and the Olympics.
Yep. Total, which is crazy. But she is actually, with a few other gymnasts, one of the older now gymnasts on the team. And so she has, said, like, I think having me and some of the other girls that are a little bit older and seeing what we're doing more maturely, both physically and mentally in the gym, is really great for these young women of all of the world, to let them know they don't have to peak at 16, because most of the time gymnasts, Erin, I'm as an artistic athlete, this, gymnasts peak at high school age because of the sport.
Or have said to peak.
Yeah.
Yes, have said. They don't. Obviously, Simone is that proof that it's not the case. So I just am curious. Like,
would Prime say he is her?
Yes, she is
her.
She is her.
You know what I meant.
Yes, I did. Simone, she is her.
Yeah, she's a bad
she
bitch.
She is her. So I just want to know, like, you've spoken out multiple times about dancers, having these struggles as well. Like, how do we ensure that these artistic athletes are taken seriously in the future?
And just athletes in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think we need to narrow it down to artistic athletes, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes from top down. If your coach or your teacher is telling you, like, your whole year that your whole, like, career comes down to that one moment, then you're setting your team up for failure. You're setting them up for life failure, honestly. So you have to be, one, open about the amount of physical and mental toll they're about to go through. Don't sugarcoat it. Be like, this is going to be a very hard week for you, or a month when it comes to the Olympics. They go there so early. And just be open and honest with them about it, because no one likes a leader who is being fake or sugarcoating things.
This is just off the top. You saying that, being real with them, yes, is very important. Being real, being honest. We talk all the time about, we're not going to coddle them, but also the whole fear, the scare tactic, or, you've worked your whole life for this, leave it. I mean, even saying stuff like that, it kind of reminds me of, this is going to be a great analogy. I hope you guys have seen it. You guys had to have seen Mighty Ducks, right? Like the OG Mighty Ducks?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, talking to the mic, Sam. Thank you. So it's kind of like the difference between Coach Riley and Coach Bombay. One of the quotes that come out of that movie for me, and I was like, even when I was younger, when I saw that when I was young, I was like, I don't think I want to play for him. But it was before Adam Banks went to the Mighty Ducks. and they showed kind of the history of Coach Riley, and it's like it ain't worth winning if you can't win big. And having that mentality of like, you've worked your whole life for this, you better make sure you show out, or whatever. And it's like, I can see how some people would confuse that with an inspirational speech of sorts.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It does come from the top down, and but also as an athlete too, I really like your privileged pressure. And it's like, you chose this life, and having more resources like this for student athletes and athletes in general, and talking to people like this. I mean, she said it. Yeah, she was in a mind state that wasn't too conducive to her Olympic showing. I remember all the drama about that and people hating on her, and she like had to disappear for a minute because she was, and it's like, that's what this shouldn't be about. She was literally saying, I don't know what it is or how to handle it, and I don't know what else to do. It's costing my team. It's costing, and whether it was a cop-out for her or not, she only knows, and I don't think that was the scenario.
Right.
But how you handle that and being more mature, and how old is she now?
26.
So you're going to tell me she peaked at 16?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't believe that. I just don't. I mean, maybe there's some qualification of this is why we prefer that. That's fine. But I'm excited to have them, because most of them, when they're like 22, 24 years old, they're like crying because this is their last Olympics ever.
Yeah.
It's like, then you look at somebody like Michael Phelps, like it's just a different sport. And he came back, and he was, older when he finished off and took his record. And there's just so many dynamics in here. But coming from an athlete standpoint, a coaching and a parenting standpoint, it's respect the position you're putting yourself in, and make a preconceived notion, make a pact, make a plan for yourself on how you want to compete, what you want your mind state to be, what you want your resources to look like, the conversations you're going to have around you, what you're going to eat, what you're going to listen to.
Yeah.
Again, it's that oval of it takes the oval of people to get you there and resources to get you there. But in the center, you have to decide. It's like, have somebody in your corner that's going to help you execute the plan. Because when you are talking about something like the Olympics or qualifying for it, if I had an opportunity like that, or had a sport where I was going to go about that, or if that was my life goal at a very young age, and it never was mine, even going professional was never a goal that I really had. But if that's your thing, make a plan accordingly, and then just write the chapters according to that, and do not stray from that, because that is true and real to who you are. And as soon as something gets out of line, or the ink looks different on that page, then you know how to course correct, or you know the questions that you have to ask, or you know that there's something else you need to do to figure out how to get back on course. And the fact that she's doing this and kind of changing the stigma of the 16-year-old peak, it's like, I love this, and I love that she's been outspoken about it, and that she's gone about it the right way. And when she came back in and went right back through and climbed the ladder again.
Yeah, I've always said that if you're wanting something so bad and then you get it and then you want to complain about it, you don't get the right to complain about it. You don't get the right to call it like negative pressure whenever it's everything you ever wanted. And that's why like it is such a privilege to have that much control and influence and pressure on yourself when it comes to big events like this. And it doesn't have to just be a big event like the Olympics. We're talking like in the community, if you're a role model, like that is a privilege to have that much pressure of someone watching you of everything you do. As a coach, you inherit a privilege pressure to perform at your best and help your athletes get to wherever they want to be. It's not something you get to complain about because you're the one who chose that life.
And that's why, we've talked a little bit about the evaluation we do for athletes. And as we go through this evaluation that we've created, that we've done on a lot of athletes now across a lot of different sports. And one of the questions we have as we're learning about this person when they first come in is, what's the goal?
Yeah.
Because then we're going to hold you accountable to it. And like you said, you get to choose.
Yeah.
But as a coach, or a provider and a coach in this aspect, is, then we can understand where they're at, what's necessary, but then coach them along the way on the mindset, because that's really the first thing to go, is having that mental block. Simone's, we could take down a whole different, if she's not feeling herself in space and being able to like literally feel her body, that could be a whole different conversation. But mentally, coaching for a time like this is crucial because like I said before, it's like you've already made it. Like the pressure, you have half the pressure being there than it took to get there. And while that some people probably be like, what are you talking about? It's the Olympics. It's like, well, like I said, it's like in order to get to the Super Bowl, you have to win the games prior. Like you have to win the AFC Championship. In order to get there, you've got to win you've got to win game 1, or you've got to win the wild card game to get to get into the conference. It's most of the pressure is gone. Just do.
Yeah, and I think there's another really important lesson that she kind of taught us in 2021 with her like mental block. She could have very well just like hid that from the world and everyone. And I think any other athlete would have just maybe been pulled from the competition and we would have had to speculate why. But she took the harder way out by coming out and saying like, no, this is why I'm not competing. And it's because I'm not going to put myself at risk. I'm not going to put the team at risk. And I think that's just a huge kind of takeaway for any athlete to hear.
She took the honest and strongest way out.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
You talk about that a lot all the time too, is it's like, that is not weakness. How many people, like I bet, I mean, and you probably never know, but you go back through championship games or Olympic trials or Olympic games. And how many people had injuries made up about them because of a similar scenario. And she comes out and says, I'm jacked right now. I don't know. I just don't know. And I'm going to say something. She did. Like it's probably more of the honest, the most real and strongest way out. And haters going to hate. Yeah,
exactly. If you have time to hate on someone like Simone Biles, then maybe your priorities really aren't.
I saw something the other day. It's like anybody who's ever hated on me is not as far as I am. Or, or something along that line. There's nobody that's farther than I am that's hated on me. And so that perspective is huge. And so it's like, sit on your couch and hate. That's fine. You're just not a part of my oval. And definitely not a part of my circle.
And that really just goes back to like, you have nothing to prove. You have no one to prove to either. Those people who are judging on you or talking bad about something, like they don't have the right to influence your mind at all. And that's a really hard lesson to learn. It's really easy to let those things get in your kind of circle barrier, if you will. But you have to just let them go. You have to know that they're not your people, they're not in your oval, and they don't deserve their place at your table.
Yeah, I love that. But Simone actually did, while at the Olympics, pull herself out of all of her, except for one. And everyone, I remember this vividly being like, she's the greatest in the world. Like, what is going on? So as the pure athlete, how do we give resources to these athletes to help them shoulder this privileged pressure that they have to represent our country on big stages like this? And how do we become a resource to let them know that it's okay? Because I know, like you guys just said, it's hard to pull out. It's hard to say that you're not okay. How do we let them know and that we're a resource for them to say that, to stand up and be like, I'm not well, it's okay? How do we do that?
Well, I think at this point we talk about seeing and really building this initially, like if you were going to handcuff us, it's that 10 to 18, 10 to 20 year old student athlete, or 10 to 22 once you get into the college range as well. But I think just speaking to that population to get to that point it really does take a team. It really does take a village. And I would say there's a very small percentage that has the quality of resources, like even trainers, coaches, providers. There's a very, very finite percentage that has all of that built up, if at all. So realizing and knowing, if you're a coach, if you're a parent of a club team or whatever the scenario is, that from head coach, assistant coach, trainers, you probably still don't have everything that you need to do what we're trying to do and provide resources for. The mental health game all the time. I talked to 3 people in the gym yesterday. They're like, all right, I've seen you here a lot. Like, what's that shirt? I wear my Pure Athlete shirt all the time because I want to get the word out and I want more questions. And I tell them it's based around mental, physical relationships. And they're like, oh man, the mental health side is huge. It's like, there's not enough resources on that. Oh, relationships, what do you mean? I'm like, well, the people they meet, it's like from 8 years old all the way up, you never know who you're shaking hands with, or even the parents don't know who they're talking to. And it's like just giving them that opportunity and then coaching them through that. Like, how do you leverage those relationships? How do you curate them? And same with the mental side. Who do you talk to? When, at what point do you need to? How do you speak to your parents? How do you speak to your athlete? And, you know, we had Will on, and we're forming more relationships with professionals in that realm.
Yeah.
And on the physical side, it's like, who do you have in your corner? How do you want your physical pillar to look for your goals, for what you have to do, want to do, and what don't you know about any of those three pillars?
Right.
But on the physical side, it's like, okay, what do I want this to look like? What am I trying to do? What position am I playing? What sports am I going after? And how do you build that and evaluate that? How do I know I'm on the right track? How do I know what to work out and how big to be and what to eat and all these things? So we're literally putting doctors like myself and resources and other care providers, professionals like you and with ATs and, you know, sports psychologists and registered dietitians. My cousin's one of those. There's just so many different things. So providing an abundance of resources.
Yeah.
What the pure athlete is trying to do right now in the stage of the life we're in is eventually, I would love to house all of this. And in every state, we're going to put facilities that are going to be resources for this. But right now, we're combining relationships and giving access to people like Will, like Brianna, like yourself, like me, like another doc across the nation, and a couple that we're talking to across the states. And literally just right now, we're just trying to get you guys to ask better questions and engage with us so we can give you the exact answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds so simple, but you just have to create a space where the athletes know that it's okay to talk to you about that. And if they don't think that that's okay, then you need to change your coaching style. You need to relieve yourself of that duty, because if you're not a trusted adult for them to come and talk to you about that kind of thing, then you're not the right fit.
And I think I have a bit of amnesia as I go through my performances. It's like, oh, what was your junior year of high school like? How did that look? And I'm like, I don't even remember.
Right.
Like, oh, you don't remember the game where you went 3 for? No, I don't. I really don't. But so it's kind of like the podcast that I was just on, the Cracking Backs podcast, which is kind of normally I'd raise my eyebrow at a name like that. It's like, no, that's an adjustment. But they had a great play on words for a reason. But I just did the podcast with those docs and talked a little bit about that. So we're going to try to upload that as one of our podcasts where I talk about that a little more on exactly what you're talking about and making sure that it's like the whole conversation of you are enough, or, you know, it's okay to ask questions and to say, I don't have resources for this. Where do I go? And it's not always your coach that's going to have the answer.
Right.
So if we can infiltrate coaches too and like, look, we're not trying to take your job. Performance trainers, we're not trying to take your job. We're trying to make you guys more valuable. We're trying to give you guys more resources, because if they don't know and you can be honest, if you do have resources, great, fire them out there.
Yeah.
But if you don't, we also want to be that leverage point too, where it's like, I don't know, but I've heard these guys talk, maybe they do. And that's really, as the pure athlete, what we're doing right now. And eventually, and it's already happening here, is housing those resources. So it's like, bang, boom, whether it's, you know, telehealth conversations over Zoom, or whether it's in person, or whether we potentially have an opportunity to fly out to teams and do our evaluation, and then we can do our Ask Me Anythings. On those regards, we've been asked to do that. So we're filtering through those ideas. But I don't know if that exactly answers your question. It's kind of a little all over the place. And well, I wouldn't say all over the place, but there's definitely some different avenues that we're going with that to be able to do exactly that.
Yeah.
I just wanted everyone to hear that.
Not that you didn't know. Thank you for the question. That's exactly kind of the mission that we're on. You know, the T-shirt we just put out for some of these teams going to nationals is building better athletes.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is a core focus of what it is we do and what we're focused on.
Yeah, and it's building it in not just the physical way either, which we always say. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that. We're not just talking about beefing them up, building them stronger. It's building them as humans, building them as future spouses, future CEOs, whatever their life really pans out to be.
So right now, just giving excellent healthcare resources for student athletes and their parents.
Yeah.
And giving athletes a definitive, personalized playbook for their success.
Yeah.
And by doing so, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
How we're starting to do it.
Yeah.
So a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one.
A lot of good things. Anything else?
Mm-mm.
I think we need to wrap it up on that perspective.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, we appreciate you guys. We again, we do have we're working out some scheduling with more guest podcasters. I'm super excited for this. I'm ready for the time where everybody goes, "Oh my gosh." So, it's going to be a lot of fun as you guys see the guests pop up on the podcast. So, make sure you like, subscribe, reach out, follow us on social media. Have a great rest of your week, rest of your day. Make somebody smile. See ya.